Welcome into the Joshua Perry Show here on Monday, March 4th, 2019. I am Dave Biddle, and of course, the show is starring former Ohio State linebacker, captain, national champion, and NFL player Joshua Perry. Joshua, I know you're thrilled to be back in Ohio with it snowing and everything after you were on the Buckeye cruise last week, but welcome back to Ohio, my friend.
Boy, one thing I didn't miss was the weather, and I get antsy when I go out of town, too. About 5 days is the max for what I'm truly comfortable with, but it was a great time. We got a lot of sun, some great Buckeyes on there, a lot of former players, and $3.2 million raise this year, $20 million over the whole 12 years they've been doing the Buckeye Cruise for Cancer, so a truly great event.
That's awesome. That is awesome, and I'm sure all those Buckeye fans love getting to meet and greet with people like yourself, so it's always such a great event. It's really cool you guys get a chance to do that. All right, let's get right into the Combine, NFL Combine. Wrapping up today, but most of the Buckeyes have already did their thing in Indianapolis. Let's start with Paris Campbell, man. I mean, he backed the truck up for the young man, 4.31 in the 40. If he wasn't already a first-round pick, I think he will be now. I feel great for all you guys when you do well, and I know your guys are about ready to get paid. It's just such a good feeling after covering you guys since you guys were in high school as recruits, and now seeing all this come to fruition. But just get into Paris, how he helped himself, and Terry McLaurin, and just anything else you want to say about the Buckeyes at the Combine.
Yeah, so those boys ran really well. And it was interesting because I was doing a radio show, and one of the questions asked was, do you think Paris Campbell runs faster than Denzel Ward did? And I was like, man, I don't know. I mean, it's a high mark. I said he's probably going to be just a tick behind, and I was wrong. Paris Campbell blazed the track there in Indy, which is fantastic, and it's good for him. One thing he did really well was in drills, he caught the ball well. And that's probably one question that people have is they know the speed is there, but they might question a little bit of the route running just because his route tree was simply vertical routes or maybe a couple of crossers. And then they were going to question his hands because as he came into Ohio State, his hands weren't exactly natural. And that definitely improved over his time as a Buckeye. So that was great there. I think probably his biggest thing was blowing it away in interviews. Just a great guy. What we saw from media availability for him was fantastic. Again, another guy who ran fast. We already knew he was a fast kid. He was the first guy down covering punts as a gunner. He showed off his ability as a wide receiver, too. Because the one thing you get into with a guy like that is they start talking about Terry McLaurin as a great special teams player. And before the draft, you really don't want to get pegged as a teamer because it takes away your true value as a player. And so I'm glad he was able to go out there and show that he's more than just a teamer. But the one guy who I'm super excited about, I'm really proud of his performance, was Johnny Dixon because of all of the injuries that he had and everything he went through his career as a Buckeye. To see him go out there and run a 4.4 and to show off his true speed and ability was amazing. And so hopefully that earns him a little bit of money here on the back end.
Yeah, and Kendall Sheffield obviously had a bad situation on the bench, very similar to what happened with Billy Price last year, a torn pec or something similar to that. It didn't hurt Billy. Billy was still a first-round pick. How much at all do you think this will hurt Kendall Sheffield?
I think it's going to be tough for him. The one thing with Billy is you had all the tape and you knew what kind of player he was, a truly aggressive guy, a very polished player. And the thing you worry about with Kendall was what he was going to look like in ball drills. I think his on-field drills were going to be probably the most important part for him. Everybody's going to assume that he's fast. He's a track guy. The one thing you wanted to see was how he can move and turn his hips and some of the fluidity there. It's something that he struggled with in game time situations. So if he gets a chance at all to get healthy and maybe work out before the draft comes up here and teams get to see him work out in person, that'll be a help because they're going to want to see him move his hips around. They're going to want to see him track the ball in air when they do those drills and they're throwing the ball deep. So for him, it was going to be important to go out there and perform, but I'm sure just the interview process and more of the teams get comfortable with him, he'll be able to answer some questions.
All right, this is one thing I know all of us who never had a chance to be superior athletes want to know. When you go to the Combine, you have your college days behind you, you have all the film that you're proud of. You go to the Combine, you do well. Pro day, you do well, whatever it might be. But you're about ready to get a large signing bonus, whatever that might mean for a certain player. You're about ready to get a big signing bonus. What does that feel like? Can you even articulate what that feels like? Or is it too hard to explain?
No, I mean, you played ball. You played this sport that you love for years for free, and now it's just all the hard work being shown to you in a nominal sum. And for a lot of guys, it's going to be a big check. For some guys, it's not as big as others. But truly, it's actually the start of a career. It's the work beginning. It's a nice little paycheck there to kind of, show the reward of everything you've put in. But truly, it's the start of a new beginning for a lot of guys. So for these guys, I'm sure it's going to be a big deal, and they'll be able to go ahead. A lot of guys end up buying a car. That's what I did. But the other thing that I bought, probably the first thing I bought, was a brand new laptop, because the one that I had from my college days was just trashed, and it had a bunch of assignments that I just wanted to get rid of. So it'll be special for these guys to finally get paid for doing something that they've been doing just out of sheer joy and love for years.
I want to ask you about you and Joey Bosa, of course, were rookies at the same time on the same team with the Chargers. And Joey obviously had the long holdout. When he came in, I'm just curious, was he as good as the seasoned veterans from day one? It seemed like he was. Was he as good as them from day one? And how did the veteran players treat Joey Bosa when he first came in?
Yeah, so it's a little unique. A lot of guys don't end up holding out in this day and age with the CBA the way it is, and Joey did. And then when he got back, he actually had a little bit of a hammy. So he wasn't ready to go right away. I think it was 4 games before we got to see Joey play. But the vets received him really well, and everybody understands the nature of the business and that you want to get whatever negotiation you have in the CBA, you want to make sure it's a fair deal. But he was as advertised. He came in right away. The thing about him is just his natural body control and the fluidity that he has, where he's a very good athlete, but it's that body control that takes him to the next level. And he's a very hardworking guy, and he's a guy who wanted to show the vets that he was, worth the first-round pick, and then worth missing training camp and worth the holdout to come in and perform for the team, and he did just that.
A couple more things about the combine and just what goes into it. Then we'll get into spring football, which I'm sure a lot of people want to hear about. A lot of people want to know, Joshua, how Nick Bosa compares to Joey Bosa. From my perspective, I've never seen guys that use their hands as well as the Bosas, and they're just so technically sound. I mean, Joey's a little taller, but just how would you compare the two? Do you think Nick's going to be as good as Joey? Is that too much to ask? Just how would you compare the two Bosa brothers?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tall task trying to be as good as Joey. I think that Nick will do a very fine job. The one benefit that he has is how close he is with Joey. And so everything that Joey has struggled with, or every question that Joey had entering the league, Nick will be able to ask all of those same questions and get an answer right from his brother. And so his transition might be a little bit smoother in terms of some of the things that you don't know about as a rookie coming into the league. But on-field play is going to be tough. And I think Joey benefited from a situation where the Chargers were trying to build up that defense and that D-line. It might not have hit right away. But as the new coaching staff came in, as they added additions to that defense, he was in a really strong position playing on the opposite side of a guy like Melvin Ingram, who is just a fantastic pass rusher as well, to be able to go out there and play and not have as much focus on him. It's pick your poison there with those guys. Who are you going to block? You're going to block Melvin, or are you going to block Joey? Nick might not be in a situation like that right away, so he might have to take a couple of lumps, but like you said, the handwork that they put in is fantastic. I think that he understands how to get to a spot. And as a pass rusher, you want to draw a line between you and the quarterback, and you want to stay on that track. And he's done a very good job of that in college, and I'm sure he'll take that expertise into the league with him.
The biggest topic in football right now, it seems like, who's going to go first between Dwayne Haskins, our guy Dwayne Haskins, who I think could go first, and Kyler Murray. There's a lot of smoke that Kyler Murray could go first overall to the Cardinals. What do you think should happen? What do you think will happen? Who should go first between those two, and what do you think will happen?
Yeah, and that's the tough thing you get about quarterbacks. There are very few positions. You get quarterbacks, I believe you get linebackers, maybe D linemen, and then safety cornerback maybe, that are truly scheme-specific guys. And so Cliff Kingsbury, the offense that he likes to run, is not an offense suited for a guy like Dwayne Haskins. And it really might not be the offense that Josh Rosen should be in. But that's where you get Kyler Murray in that situation of being the number one overall guy, is he seems to be a scheme fit in that situation. Me personally, I like to err on the side of traditional wisdom when it comes to quarterbacks, where you want a guy who's going to be a pocket presence. You want a taller guy with a strong arm. You don't have to worry about him getting hit as much. But that's all it comes down to, basically a situation of scheme fit, where to me, Dwayne Haskins is clearly the better quarterback. And I think he showed that the way he was throwing the ball around in drills at the combine. But Kyler Murray might be the guy that fits better in the scheme, and he might be the type of player that they're looking for. So you may see that happen. There's a lot of smoke behind it. There's a lot of talk behind Kyler Murray maybe being the first overall pick. But I think the team that ends up selecting Dwayne Haskins is going to get the better quarterback and truly the guy who I think will be a pro for the longer amount of time.
It's going to be fun having a Buckeye quarterback go high in the draft. We haven't had one go in the first round since Art Schlichter before you were born back in 1982.
Amazing.
Yeah, Baltimore Colts. The then Baltimore Colts took Schlichter fourth overall. So it's going to be nice having a guy like Haskins that we can root for in the NFL for a long time. All right, let's switch gears and talk some spring ball. It kicks off this week.
Sure.
First media availability is Wednesday. Just from a broad perspective, Joshua, what are you most excited to see, just most interested to see this spring from the Buckeyes?
Well, it's going to be Justin Fields. That's the guy that everybody wants to see. He's the quarterback, kind of the coveted new guy around the Woody. And so I want to see what he looks like in drills first and foremost, and I want to see how he gels with his teammates. That's the hard thing about being a quarterback coming in at this juncture is being able to develop a rapport and a relationship with guys on the offense, that O-line feeling confident, being able to trust those guys, getting to know the receivers and how those guys run their routes. And, it's always interesting because some guys are different. For Ben Victor, he might not beat you off the line. It might take a tick longer for him to get out of that break and get open. And so being able to hold the ball just that extra tick, trusting the O-line that they're going to hold up their blocks and then being able to deliver it on point is what I'm looking for to see out of him. But the other thing on the other side of the ball, and I think kind of the question everybody has and what everybody wants to see is what the hell that linebacker room is going to look like. Now we've got a whole new defensive staff. We've got a lot of new faces coaching, but we've got the same guys coming back. And so we're going to want to see how they adjust and adapt to the new system. We want to see maybe who's made some strides this offseason in terms of their physical composition and their confidence and their ability to learn the playbook to see who's going to be on the field for the Buckeyes as starting 3 linebackers this year.
You mentioned Justin Fields. That is obviously the main item of interest for all Buckeye fans. Expectations, what are your personal expectations for him this fall? And I'm presuming that he wins the job. I know Matthew Baldwin's going to have something to say about that, but presuming Justin Fields is a starting quarterback for Ohio State, what do you expect out of him this year as a sophomore?
High expectations, just like I would have for anybody who's going to be the starting quarterback at The Ohio State University. There's been a lot of noise around him, and he's a very highly touted guy. And so I expect him to play like that. And I'm not expecting him to put up Dwayne Haskins like passing numbers because that's just ridiculous, but he should be proficient in throwing the ball down the field. And I think that he should command the offense as an athlete as well, being able to get out of some situations with his legs. I think he's got a favorable situation. The O-line might have a couple of questions, but you've got a really good running back in J.K. Dobbins coming back. You look at your top wide receivers, KJ Hill, Austin Mack, Ben Victor, Chris Olave. And then you look at some young guys as well, Cameron Babb, Jalen Gill. Garrett Wilson's a guy that we're all looking forward to. I think that it's favorable for him. He's got some tools. He should be able to step in and play really well.
You mentioned the linebackers. This is a question I get a lot. How much did Bill Davis hold back the development of the linebackers? Let me ask an expert in the field, you, Joshua Perry. How much, if at all, did Bill Davis hold back the development of the linebackers the last couple of years?
It's hard to want to put it all on Bill Davis, where you got questions about how the guys were able to learn and how he was able to communicate in the meeting room. And you've got some questions about maybe why the guys didn't look like they got better over the course of the season. But when it comes down to things like alignment and technique, that's all dictated by the D coordinator too. So I think just the full system hitting reset and restart this spring is going to be good for those guys. There should be a lot more improvement because I think we've seen these guys basically at the ground floor, where last year was about as tough as it's going to get for the performance those guys put out on the field. I'm super excited, number one, because of the new start with the coaching staff, but number two, everybody's back. And so you've got to assume that everybody is improved from where they were last year. Now it's just a matter of seeing what the scheme truly looks like and how these guys fit into the scheme. It might take a little bit of time for some of these players to get comfortable. They were used to playing a certain position a certain way for the last couple of years. Now we might be asking them to do some things differently, but overall, I think it's going to be a benefit to the players in that room.
And last thing on the show here today, Ryan Day, obviously his first spring as the big boss of the Buckeyes. I'm sure he's going to do a lot of stuff like Urban Meyer did. But what are maybe some differences? I don't mean schematically or anything like that, but just how he handles spring ball, how he might handle the schedule, just anything you're hearing that he might do maybe differently than Urban did.
Yeah, I'm hearing that there might be a little bit more media availability, which is a good thing. And then he's going to want to get eyes on and people involved. So we've got that Student Appreciation Day coming back, which is a great thing. I think overall he's trying to start off his new era and ingratiate himself into Buckeye Nation. He's trying to get the players' faces seen. He's trying to get his coaches' faces seen as well. And overall, I think it's just going to be a different feel. You know, sometimes guys will go out there with Urban, and I mean, you hit day 9 of spring practice and guys are really dragging ass around, and it's tough. I think that Ryan Day is a little bit of a, you get your business, but you also get some pleasure along with it too. So he might have some unique things in there that might break up spring practice a little bit more, especially with some of the young guys we've got going through it to keep them more involved and to keep them focused. So I'm excited about what he's got going there. I think he's going to do a fantastic job. I can't say enough good things about him and the way that he put his staff together. So this is going to be really unique because it's his first spring and it's a, only time to make a first impression, but I think he's going to do a great job with it.
Sloopy lives in a very bad part of town.